Welcome to the channel where we get straight to the point. No fluff. Today, we're diving into a topic that might seem a bit controversial at first, but stick with me. It's all about creating healthy attraction in relationships. So here's the question. How do you make sure she values you and doesn't take you for granted? Before you start thinking that this is some sneaky manipulation tactic, hear me out. What I'm talking about is not playing games, but rather understanding a powerful dynamic in relationships that many people miss. It's about ensuring she knows that there's a real possibility of losing you if things aren't balanced. Sound controversial? Maybe. But let me explain how this isn't just a power move. It's about fostering real, lasting attraction. In relationships, there's a fine line between showing enough interest and keeping a healthy level of mystery. When everything is given too easily, without room for someone to work for it, they start to take it for granted. And if a woman doesn't feel the slightest fear of losing you, it's easy for her to lose appreciation. Fear of loss is natural. It's tied to human nature. The idea of potentially losing something valuable triggers a deep response in people, one that makes them want to hold on to what they care about. And when used strategically, this dynamic can strengthen the connection. It's not about playing games, it's about creating value and making sure that you're not easily replaceable. If you think that relationships thrive on constant attention and affirmation, think again. Too much of it, especially when it's unearned, can push someone away. That's where the idea of fear of loss comes into play. Step 1. So how do we do this in a healthy way? Let's start with a big one. Stop overpraising her. Don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with complimenting her or appreciating the amazing person she is. But there's a danger when those compliments become too frequent, too predictable, or unearned. The more you praise her for basic things, the less impact your words have over time. The key here is balance. When praise becomes too automatic, it loses its meaning. If you're constantly telling her how beautiful she is, how lucky you are to have her, or how amazing she looks, those words eventually lose their weight. Why? Because they start to feel expected, not earned. Now, instead of always showering her with compliments, create a balance. Let her feel like your admiration isn't something she takes for granted. Show her that she truly has to earn your attention and respect. And in turn, she'll start valuing it more. All right, so let's flip the dynamic a little. You want her to crave your validation, not take it for granted. The moment she feels like she already has you wrapped around her finger, she stops putting in the effort. She stops chasing, and eventually, you become just another guy who's overly focused on her. And that's a surefire way to be taken for granted. Now, let's try something different. Instead of giving constant praise, keep your compliments rare but genuine. You give her a compliment when it's really deserved, when you've noticed something special. She puts effort into a date, and you acknowledge it. She shows care and support, and you show appreciation. When you do this, your words actually matter. They make her think, is he still into me? Did I do something wrong? That little bit of uncertainty, that's the fear of losing you at work, and it keeps her emotionally invested. Here's how this might play out. Let's say you're out together, and she's looking great. Instead of the typical, "Wow, you look amazing," like every other guy would say, you keep it cool. You notice, give her a slight smile, and say something like, "Nice effort." Then you go back to what you were doing. That simple line speaks volumes. It says, "I noticed," but it doesn't come off as desperate or overly eager. Now she's left wondering, was that a compliment? Was he impressed or not? And that's exactly the kind of reaction you want. A woman who's thinking about you, wondering where she stands, is a woman who's afraid of losing you. Bottom line, stop giving constant praise. Make your approval something she has to earn, not something she expects. That's how you stay in her mind and create that underlying fear of losing you, without even saying a word about it. Step 2. Next up, don't always be available. If there's one thing that can instantly kill mystery, tension, and attraction in a relationship, it's being too available. Always answering her texts right away, always picking up her calls, always saying yes to last-minute plans, might seem like you're being caring or dependable. But here's the truth. All you're really doing is showing her that you have nothing else going on in your life. And let's be honest, women don't value a man who's always waiting on them. They value a man who's moving forward with or without them. Think about it. If she knows you'll always respond right away, always pick up, and always drop what you're doing to make time for her, where's the challenge? Where's the urgency? Where's the sense of importance? The fear of losing you can't exist when you're always right there. You become predictable, always accessible, and honestly, easier to ignore. So if you want to trigger that healthy fear of losing you, start making her feel your absence without being distant or playing games. It's not about ghosting her or being rude. It's about having your own life outside of the relationship. When you prioritize your mission, your health, your growth, and the things that matter to you, she'll begin to notice. And when she does, she'll start to wonder, what's he up to? Why isn't he always around? That's when the fear of losing you begins to kick in. Now let's talk about creating emotional tension in a positive way. If you're always around and always available, she'll stop wondering about you. The key is to create just enough space so that she begins to ask herself, where is he? What's he doing? Why isn't he responding like he usually does? That's where the magic happens. When she realizes you're not just another guy who's constantly at her beck and call, she starts valuing the time she gets with you. Men who are respected and desired don't operate on anyone else's schedule. They have their own plans and priorities, and people fit into those plans, not the other way around. When she sees you're not always available, she starts to appreciate every moment she spends with you. That shift in dynamic, that's how you avoid being taken for granted. So many guys make the mistake of thinking that being consistent means always being available. But there's a huge difference between being consistent and being needy. You can be consistent in your values, your intentions, and your energy without being constantly on call. When she notices this shift, it'll wake her up. She'll realize you're not glued to your phone. You're not waiting around for her to make the next move. And most importantly, you're not placing her above your own purpose. That space you create, that's where attraction builds. That's where she starts to think about you more. And that's where the fear of losing you creeps in, because now she understands you've got a life she's not automatically entitled to. Bottom line, you want her to earn your attention, not expect it. Keep her guessing, and you'll maintain her investment. Step 3. Next, let's talk about letting her see other women want you. This one's huge. Nothing gets a woman's attention faster than realizing she's not the only one who sees your value. When she knows other women are interested in you, it flips a switch in her mind. Now she's not just thinking about how much she likes you, she's thinking about how easily she could lose you. And that's the fear we're talking about. The fear of loss, the fear of competition. That's what keeps attraction alive. A lot of guys make the mistake of downplaying their desirability to other women. They act like they're only focused on one girl. But here's the thing. Women are competitive by nature. When a woman thinks no one else is vying for your attention, she relaxes. She assumes you're always available and secure, and that's when she starts to put in less effort. But when she senses that other women want you, everything changes. She becomes more aware of how you carry yourself, how you talk, how you move. She notices things she used to overlook. Your confidence feels different. Your silence feels heavier. Your presence becomes more meaningful because now you're not just a guy who's always there. You're a man with options. And that pressure keeps her invested. Here's the deeper truth. It's not always about being the best looking or richest guy in the room. It's about the energy you project. When you carry yourself with confidence, self-respect, and independence, women feel it. Your girl starts evaluating her own behavior, wondering, am I doing enough? Does he still choose me? And just like that, she starts fighting for her place in your life. Now, some might say this is manipulative, but it's not. It's basic human psychology. People are attracted to what others want. It validates their own desire. When she sees that you're respected and pursued by others, even casually, it reminds her of your value. She realizes she could lose you if she doesn't keep up. But the key is this. You don't have to say anything. You don't need to brag. Just live your life in a way that shows you're not desperate, that you're desirable, and that other women notice you. Once that reality sets in, the dynamic shifts. She's no longer the one being chased. She's the one doing the chasing, motivated by a quiet fear she can't ignore. Step 4. Finally, let's talk about one of the most powerful tools you have in this dynamic. Saying no without explanation. A man who can say no without feeling the need to justify, it is a man who's in control of his life. And when it comes to triggering that healthy fear of losing you, this is one of the most underrated tools in your arsenal. The moment you start over-explaining yourself, you're giving away your power. You're showing that you need to justify your decisions or actions, and that makes you seem less confident. When you can say no and stand by it, without providing a long explanation, it shows that you have boundaries and that you're in control of your life. Here's why this matters. Women are naturally drawn to men who are decisive, who know what they want, and who aren't afraid to say no when necessary. When you show that you have your own priorities and you're not willing to drop everything at the drop of a hat, it makes you more attractive. It keeps her on her toes, wondering if she's doing enough to keep your attention. When you constantly over-explain your decisions, you're sending the message that you need her approval. And that's a vibe you want to avoid. Many men struggle with this because they've been conditioned to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, and to justify every no with an explanation. But here's the reality. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing what's best for you. If you don't feel like doing something, you're allowed to simply say no. No apology, no long story, just a clear boundary. This simple act communicates strength, confidence, and self-respect, qualities that are incredibly attractive. These qualities also trigger a healthy level of fear, not in a manipulative sense, but in the sense that she realizes you're not easily swayed. You're not someone she can push around with guilt or charm. You're not putting her emotions above your own boundaries. Here's why that's powerful. Women test boundaries. They don't do it maliciously. It's more about wanting to understand what kind of man you are. If every time she pushes, you fold, you risk losing her respect. And when respect disappears, so does attraction. But when you can say no and stand firm, it sends a very strong message. I am not here to please you. I am here to lead my own life. And here's the key. Silence after your no is just as powerful as the no itself. If you start backpedaling, explaining, or trying to make her feel better about your decision, you diminish the tension that makes you desirable. If you calmly and confidently stand by your decision, she'll sit with it, reflect on it, and wonder, is he the kind of man I can control? And in that moment, the seed of fear is planted. The fear of losing you. You're not just someone who'll get upset if she crosses a line. You're someone who'll walk away if things don't feel right. That's how a man sets the tone. And that's how you keep her respect without raising your voice. Step 5. Now let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes men make in relationships. Rewarding bad behavior with more attention. And one of the most damaging forms of bad behavior? Entitlement. When a woman starts acting as if she deserves your time, your energy, or your resources without earning it, that's the moment you need to go silent. Why does ignoring her when she acts entitled work? Because it forces her to confront her behavior. When you pull back and stop feeding into that entitlement, you're showing her that disrespect doesn't deserve a response. This is where things change. Let's be real. If you keep giving her attention, even when she's acting entitled, you're teaching her that she can treat you however she wants, and you'll still be there. Still texting, still calling, still planning dates. But when you stop reacting and remove your energy, it changes everything. Let's say you've made weekend plans, but she suddenly expects you to cancel everything because she's had a rough day and wants your attention. When you tell her you can't, she might get cold, disappointed, or even passive-aggressive. Instead of arguing, just stay calm. Don't explain yourself, don't try to fix it. Just stick to your plans, go about your day, and keep your energy for the things that matter to you. What happens next? She starts wondering, did I go too far? Why isn't he reacting the way he used to? That's where the fear of losing you begins to creep in. It's not about arguing or being confrontational. It's about showing her that you have standards and that your time is valuable. When she sees you standing your ground, she'll begin to respect you more. Ignoring entitlement doesn't make you immature. It makes you a man with standards. Any woman who truly values you will self-correct when she sees that you're not tolerating disrespect. This is how you train people to treat you, and it's how you maintain your value in her eyes. Step 6. Walk away when disrespected. This is one of the most crucial steps in preserving your self-worth and setting boundaries. It's easy to talk about respect, but when it's tested, whether through a cutting remark, a crossed boundary, or emotional manipulation, that's when your true strength is shown. If you're serious about maintaining your value, you must be willing to walk away when disrespected. No warning, no emotional breakdown, just leave. The moment she sees that you'll stay after being disrespected, you lose her respect. She might smile, play nice, but beneath the surface, something shifts. The tension fades, the mystery disappears. She knows she can push your limits, and you'll still be there. That's when she starts to pull away emotionally. Not because she doesn't like you, but because she no longer sees you as someone who demands respect. Here's the hard truth. Tolerating disrespect sacrifices your self-worth for the sake of comfort. Every time you let it slide, you teach her that your boundaries are flexible. You teach her that she can talk to you however she wants, and there will be no real consequence. This isn't strength, it's fear, disguised as love. What should you do instead? When she crosses the line, you remove yourself. Quietly, confidently. No explanation, no argument. Just walk away. Your silence teaches her more than any speech could. When you remove yourself, she starts to realize your value and may even start questioning her behavior. This isn't about being dramatic. It's about respecting yourself enough to say no to disrespect. And here's why this works. The man who values himself more than any relationship is rare. Most men tolerate anything just to keep a woman around. But when you walk away from what doesn't feel right, you become unforgettable. She'll remember the moment you chose your standards over her, and that creates fear. The fear of losing you. Step 7, focus on your life, not hers. Far too many men lose themselves when they start focusing too much on a woman's world. Suddenly, it's all about her schedule, her emotions, and her problems, while your own life takes a back seat. You may think you're showing love and care, but what you're really doing is diminishing your own sense of purpose. When you do this, you risk becoming forgettable. Here's the truth. You were born to build, not to orbit around someone else's world. Women aren't attracted to a man who's available at all times or constantly bending over backward. They're attracted to a man who's driven, who has goals, who's locked into his own purpose. Attraction grows from the energy you bring, not from how available you make yourself. The moment you prioritize her over your own goals in life, something shifts. You start skipping workouts, canceling plans, and sacrificing your own growth. You wonder why the dynamic feels off, or why she starts acting cold. It's because you stopped being the man she was initially attracted to. You became a shadow in her life, and that's not the dynamic she signed up for. Women want to be part of your life, not the point of it. They want to earn your time and attention, not expect it by default. So, remind yourself daily that your mission, your routine, your peace, and your personal growth are non-negotiable. The man she fears losing is the one who is focused, driven, and not easily distracted. He's busy becoming something, and that's what keeps her invested. If you've fallen into the trap of making her your entire focus, it's time to reset. Rebuild your routine. Start working on your growth, your health, and your goals again. The man who lives for his mission will always be more attractive to her than the man who lives for her. Here's the harsh truth that many men don't want to hear. When you start making a woman your priority, you risk losing her. The more you sacrifice your sense of self for her, the more you become forgettable. Women respect men who have their own direction, their own lives, and who set boundaries. Think about your own experiences. How many times have you placed a woman on a pedestal only to watch attraction fade? The man who fears losing his purpose will never make a woman fear losing him. If you've ever struggled with balancing your own life and a relationship, or if you've found yourself in this pattern, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences, and let's start a conversation. You don't have to go through this alone. I'm here to help. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.